morning from Vietnam. Good evening to you, Justin. Thanks a lot for spending your evening on a day that you've been on business trip to spend your time to share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, I want to say thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Justin, you've been traveled to so many countries, but Vietnam is yet on your list. So please make it on your bucket list. And then if you travel here, make sure you let us know, and we would love to take you out to show you our cities and our people. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. It's on a short list of places I'd love to visit. So I'm looking forward to trying to get out there someday.
Wonderful, wonderful. And for a little taste of our culture, it's very honor for our audience to have you to do a little introduction of who you are and the work you are doing. Would you please do that for us?
Sure. So my name is Justin McKennon. I'm a principal scientist at a small company called Electromagnetic Applications. I specialize in a technical field called electromagnetic effects. So it's a very small field. It's very hard to study. They don't teach it in university around the world, but it involves what happens when you put complicated systems together on a platform, things like airplanes and satellites and stuff. So I study those, I test them, I evaluate them. And through that, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how I work as a person, and I try to kind of blend what I'm good at technically with what I'm good at personally. And I think I found a really good niche to do that in.
Yeah. Justin, you tell people how to design jet planes, and you introduce your story in about less than 60 seconds, so it's not fair for our audience, man. So this conversation is designed to explore the journey and why you choose to become an expert in that field. And so let's travel time together, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. When I was little, I wanted to become an astronaut, and flying to a different planet seemed pretty cool to me, but life didn't give me any opportunity to do that. So Justin, when you were little, what was your dream about you and the work you are going to do in the future, though?
So it definitely didn't involve what I'm doing right now. I always wanted to be a catcher for the Boston Red Sox. That was my dream growing up. I was really skinny, but it was definitely not in the cards. I was not a good enough baseball player to do that. I had a bit of a unique upbringing. I've never met my dad. Unfortunately, I'm not close with my mom, so I wasn't like a big family guy. I was there's a program in the United States called the Big Brother, Big Sister program, where if you're kind of in a situation like I am, you get kind of handed a role model. And I had a few of them, and the one that stuck, his name's Ed Moore. He's pretty much my dad. I attribute a lot of the good characteristics professionally that I have to watching someone do it. Imagine Roger Clemens being your baseball coach. I had that as a life coach growing up, and I took a lot of stock in that. It was really hard to look at my friends, sitting at home every day eating dinner with their parents, and I looked at my home life, and not a fault by any stretch there. My mom certainly made the best that she could do with what we had. But I was jealous, man. I was like, man, I want to have somebody to hug and look up to, and I was not going to get that at home. And the Big Brother Big Sister program gave me that, and that was certainly a start. And I wanted to play baseball. I thought that if I believed in myself, I could do whatever I wanted to do. And realism set in high school, where I was like, I'm just really not that good at baseball. You can't, you can't believe in yourself to be better than 99% of the people there if you're not. And so I went to college, and I was a pretty good student. I wouldn't say I was the best at studying, but I was really good on tests and things. I went to the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. I had a really good college experience. I joined a fraternity. Some of my best friends, most of the people that I became really close with, I went to college with there. But I got challenged really hard in engineering, and it was I think the first time in my life that I really found something that I wanted to be good at, that it wasn't easy. And that built a pretty good fire, under me to, everybody finds this hard. And I'm like, no, if you want to be really good at something, you got to do stuff that other people find difficult and hard. And I just kind of found it in engineering there. And so, I'd be lying if I told you that the things that I've done in my career was something I planned. Didn't. I don't think that really anybody would say that. It usually ends up happening. But I got my grad and undergrad in electrical engineering, and my wife and I met her in 2008. Started dating. We've been together for a long time, but we majored in the same field, and she was in the power industry. She was, she had some neighbors growing up that got her an internship when she was pretty young in college, and in Western Massachusetts, they gave her an internship, and we graduated. I was interviewing around. She got a good job, and I had to find something in Western Mass. So got started General Dynamics. I decided I wanted to outgrow that, and I got really lucky that there was a lightning test company in Pittsfield that had kind of an aging guard, I guess I would call it, a bunch of people that had done some things that I could never dream of doing, that needed somebody young that was hungry to kind of pick up the next goal, and that was me. And I think the rest is somewhat history. So it's a bit of an abbreviated history there, but I feel like I'm a right time, right place guy, but like 100 times over. And I'm not sure if that's luck or maybe it's me or something in the middle of it. They got that.
So you say that you got into this field by because it's hard, right? And because not many people decide, and it's able to do it. So you decided to take on the hard thing. So what motivates you actually back then to really do the things that people avoid of doing or afraid of taking on?
So I think, if I'm being totally honest, when I was a kid, I always really wanted people to think I was cool, right? Like I wanted to fit in, and if you're a really good basketball player or a football player or a sports player, it's really easy, right? Like people just go watch you play sports and they think you're good at that. And so therefore you had that. And I was like, I never had anything like that, right? I never stood out in anything. I was average, right? Like just like most of us. Like I didn't do anything bad or really good, but like I wanted to. And so I think I was overly sensitive to finding something that I might stand out in. And, I was at General Dynamics for like about 2.5 years. And I think I did well there. I got a couple promotions, and that's a company where you work on something that's so gigantic. These are Navy nuclear submarines is what I worked on, that like you're part of it's like this big, and the whole project is, my hands are way off the screen there. It's so big. So like you do something important, but it's like tiny. And, I think I wanted to move the needle a little bit more, and I just started looking around, and I found it. Lighting Technologies is 5 minutes from where I was working, and I went over there, and I have a pretty close to a photographic memory. I won't say purely photographic, but numbers and letters, like I don't forget. If you ask my wife, I forget everything I'm supposed to do at home, but I don't forget the stuff I do at work. So maybe it's like it, maybe it's not. I'm not sure. And I went in there and I looked at a company that had 40 years of just doing stuff that you can't even fathom. There's a company that does that. That's like kind of the way that I was introduced to lightning technologies. And, like our job was to shoot lightning at stuff and blow it up and talk about what happened. That was it. That was my job every day. Sometimes we would build equipment and we would bring it all over the world and shoot it with different forms of lightning. Sometimes people would bring stuff to us and we'd blow it up. And I'm like, I could do this forever. This is amazing. This is like the coolest thing in the entire world. And I realized pretty quickly in doing it that there's just maybe, you're holding it in your hands, how many people in the world that have ever done any of this stuff. And the people in my company taught me really good. They were incredible mentors. Andy Plummer, Ed Rupke, those guys that are in the industry that I work in, or everybody knows their names. They were extremely close to retirement when I got there, and I was next in line. So Lightning Technologies got bought. They, I had a great time there. They got bought. Company interest kind of changed, and I was like, 28, 29 years old, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to like be a big corporate guy. Like, what do I do? Like, I feel like I want to build something and. Maybe I'll start my own company. And Electromagnetic Applications, EMA, as it's called, my current company, is the company I would build. And so I reached out to our president, Tim, and I was like, hey, pay me what I'm making now, and I'll come over right now. We competed, we knew each other from the industry, and I was like, I want to build a space lab, and I want to bring what I'm really good at, electromagnetic effects, like testing, consulting, that stuff, but I want to build a space lab. To EMA. And EMA, we had like about 10 people at the time. And Tim said, sure, let's do it. And now we have 70 people, and we have the only commercially available space radiation effects lab in the world. The reason I'm traveling so much is we did too good of a job at building up our line of business to test helicopters all over the world. I'll be in India the first week of January testing a helicopter. I was in Korea, a week and a half or so ago, planning to test an attack helicopter. We're in St. Louis out here dealing with, fighter jets and things like that. And, I look back at how fortunate I am to have kind of just wandered in. I guess that's the way I would describe it, wandered in. I didn't plan for any of this stuff. For an industry that just needed a loud voice, and there's so many people that know a lot more than I do by a lot of it there. But I think I can say I'm in the top 5% of people that are happy to talk about it and try to put themselves out there and say it, because I work on things that shoot missiles and fly and stuff that goes to space and things that go into the water. And in a consulting role, I get to do all of it on a daily basis. And it's cool, man. And I think it's a field that not a lot of people know a lot about. And I have just had the best time as a guy that just loved science and learned about it kind of in a career, and had kind of a challenging upbringing. So I got a bit of a chip on my shoulder to try to prove myself and do something. And it's been awesome. The travel's hard a little bit, I will say honestly. I got 2 children at home. My wife works, obviously. But when you can leave an indelible mark everywhere you go, it makes you feel a little bit better about the work you do. So I try to live by that.
You said that everything is you wander in, right? But then when I read at your profile, I said when you committed to making something work, you commit. So I want you to dig deeper into your life and the upbringing to find out what is a secret sauce that leading to the success that you are doing today. I don't believe in that the wandering process is what it is. So what else in there, Justin?
Well, I mean, I think it's a combination of the two. I think I'd be lying if I said I planned to get into electromagnetic effects. That would just not be the truth. I didn't plan for it there. But I will admit that I got into it just because there was an opportunity, and I tried to, there's a pay raise. I don't have to move, right? Like let's try it. And the second that I got into it there, what I think that I do a little bit differently there is I'm really good at asking hard questions, and I'm really good at figuring out what the answer really is to it there with those things. And in a field as an engineer where it can be challenging is, there's different sides of your brain, and I'm not a brain doctor by any stretch there, but there's an art side and there's a science side. And the more one-sided that you are, if you're very much the science side of your brain, the people relation stuff can be really hard. There's a lot of anecdotes about engineers that look at the floor and they talk like this, and I'm just not cut from that cloth there, right? Like I'm social. I grew up as an only child with like really not a lot of parents and things like that, so I took every opportunity I had to talk to people. So I'm not afraid to talk to people. I love, to a fault, right? I love talking. I love, being out there and having conversations and learning about people and stuff. And I think that that's uncommon in field, especially as an engineer. I think that's uncommon. And when you take that with a really niche technical field, it's a nice blend. And what I found in the consulting realm that EMA works in, that I get to work in on a daily basis there, is that people are longing for someone they can talk to. And I think I'm good at listening to people. I'm good at hearing what people are asking. And, when I've been around the industry for 15 plus years now at this point, I've seen a lot of stuff that I learned, and it was I think it was about 5 years ago, I can say it really, when I realized it there, where I was like, I don't think that the questions I'm going to get asked professionally are going to stump me. I don't think that there's anything I haven't seen at this point. Like, it might be an application area, it might be a new type of airplane, but it's the same question. If I plug this in, is it going to work? If I put this here, is it going to work? And I'm like, well, I feel like I can use the stuff I've learned to figure out if this is, use simulation, use testing. I can do both of them there. And I'm like, maybe I should speak confidently instead of being, worried about being wrong. Maybe I should be more authoritative with it there. And I made that conscious decision, and the stuff that I've gotten to do, it's cool. I'm proud of it. I think, I've got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old at home. And, I hope someday that they look at the stuff that I've been able to do and they say, Dad, that's cool. And that's all I want, right? Like, I don't, my bills are paid. I'm really, being an engineer pays the bills pretty well. But like, dude, as a dad, when your kids, like, you go to school and, again, my 6-year-old's in kindergarten right now, and they talk about what your parents do for a living. And I get told that, dude, your dad has a cool job from your 6-year-old kid who is in the midst of the most social growth that he's ever going to go through, right? From going through like preschool until like being around kids every day, and the kids that he's around every day think that your dad has a cool job. Like, yeah, that makes me feel pretty good. That's kind of pretty validating from where I come from.
Wow. Allow me to bring you back into 5 years ago. Okay, so you say
Yeah.
that is a moment that has transformed inside of you to be more authoritative in the way that you want to do and control your life, right? What happened back then?
So when I left Lightning Technologies, so I was a chief engineer there, and so LTI, we called it LTI, is the place where if you do lightning testing of airplanes or anything in the world, a lot of it, the vast majority of it came from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which is where I live. And the man that founded the company, Andy Plummer, taught me just so much about airplanes and how to consult and everything. I give him a ton of credit for teaching me a lot of what I know there. But like, that company had changed a lot. We got bought, as I mentioned, and the focus of that company had shifted, and it kind of deviated from what I wanted to do. And so I joined EMA in 2019. So that was 6+ years, roughly 6 years ago. So this is a little bit after. So I joined EMA, and I saw a company that wanted to grow, and we had about 10 people at the time. Rod Perala was the founder of EMA, and he was retiring, and there was new ownership taking hold. So I joined, and they kind of talked to me about that. And I think what really spoke to me was when I told them, and I was like, hey, I've never been in a position of power to negotiate, right? I'm young, we'll just hire somebody else. And I was like, no, EMA, if you want me, I want to build a space lab, and I want to, build the E3, line of business here, because that's what I want to do. I know how to do this stuff. And they were like, sure, let's do it. And once we started to get both of those up off the ground, I really realized that I knew what I was talking about, right? And it's not that I didn't think that I knew what I was talking about, but I watched the things that I was saying come to fruition, and that level of validation for me was something that I didn't think I'd ever get. And right, like you can conjecture about stuff that you think you know. I mean, imagine being a chef and you start putting ingredients together that you think should taste good, and you do it 100 times in 100 different combinations, and every single one of them tastes delicious. And you're like, I might be really good at putting this stuff together. Oh my goodness. And I kind of had that revelation there where I started to, we got really awesome opportunities to do some hard problems, and it wasn't black and white. And in that area, it's gray. It's like, figure it out. And I was given some chances to figure some really hard problems out. And I don't want to say it to my credit, but like, I was able to figure them out with, not just me, but with the people that I work with and things like that. And you build a little bit of momentum and a little bit of confidence. And I was like, it's not that this isn't hard, but I was like, I think I look at this the right way to know that I have the right people behind me, that we can figure anything out. And I'm gonna emblazon that on my chest with a tattoo, and just take it and I can figure anything out in our industry, and I'm going to wear that, and I'm going to believe it, and I'm going to just say that, because nobody else in our industry is going to do that. We're in engineering, everything is really, hesitant and very, a trepidation about, nobody wants to be wrong. And I was like, I'm not afraid of being wrong, because I know it's not going to happen. I just know it's not going to happen. And so you want to bring me in, I'm going to figure it out. And it was a little bit bold, to be honest, at first, where I was like, do I know all this stuff? You got a little questioning in there. And then I look at the, several hundred projects that we've done since then, haven't gotten one wrong yet. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, and it's not that the answer. It's just, I know that with the simulation tools that EMA builds and our test capabilities and our experience along both sides there, I was like, we can figure anything out. And it's led to just stuff that you couldn't write a book about. I mean, to be honest, and I'm just really, and my TED Talk talked a lot about this there, where I dreamed that I could do something that's really important, and I got it. It was just more important than I kind of thought that what I signed up for would really ever get to.
So how did you feel when you realized that you and your team can figure anything out? How that feeling brought to you?
It was scary because not a lot of people are going to believe that, right? And nobody wants to be wrong, and I'm certainly of that, in that capacity there, right? Where if you're like, no, I have this, and you get it wrong, people are let down, and that's scary, to do that. And so what I had to figure out was, how good of a risk assessor am I? Am I going to look you in the eye and tell you I can figure something out and know that I can figure it out? Because how do you know that you can figure it out, right? Like, you could be like, the cure for cancer is what you need to figure out, Justin. And I'm like, yeah, I can figure it out. And you're just like, well, that just sounds kind of silly, because nobody's figured that out. The risk assessment that I started to get really good at when this kind of came on there was like, what do I know about the problem you're asking me, and what are we being asked to do, right? And so if you ask me for the cure for cancer, I'm like, well, I don't know anything about that stuff. That's not the domain I practice in, so I'm not going to tell you I can do that. If you're trying to put a box in an airplane in a certain area and there's requirements about it, that's the domain I know really well, because I know if you put it here, here's the requirements it's going to have to do. Here's the 57 things I've seen in my life from testing and from simulation and from everything in between there. So if you can't handle these 5 things, you can't do it. And I can tell you that without, like, in a conversation, without doing a ton of analysis there. And I think it's not that I'm amazing or better than anybody at it. I've just had an opportunity to do something, consulting wise, and a lot of data that people don't have opportunities to do. And I try to make sure that I can assimilate it as best that I can, which is usually pretty good. Like numbers and letters and stuff, I remember them pretty well. And man, in this industry, especially timing wise, I count my blessings a lot, because I walk in and I start getting what I think is pretty good at this stuff, and then electric aircraft come around. Nobody's done anything with that. We haven't built in the United States a clean sheet airplane until in the last couple of years, since the early 1990s. So there's a 30-plus year gap from anybody. So these are the people that the Boeings and the Lockheeds and everything like that have worked around airplanes, but never built anything from scratch. And now we have an entire new industry being built in the United States of people that haven't done it before. And there was a huge opportunity for myself and for EMA, and we've certainly done this to get involved. And it's really led to just like the stuff that, like, if you're sitting around a fire telling about the stuff you're working on at work, not to brag, but like, holy cow, the stuff that we're doing, it's just the best. Like I'm proud of it. It's amazing. The testing and the analysis and the simulation and things powered by batteries, flying like helicopters and taking off like airplanes. Like, I would have told you were lying if you told me I'd ever get to work with that kind of stuff, 5 years ago or something like that. And so I don't know. I mean, I would say it's certainly something I'm proud of, and I don't take for granted by any stretch. But I think I'm still a casualty of right time, right place, but also right personality to kind of be in that role for sure.
So what is right personality?
So I'm not afraid to be wrong. So the Pittsfield, Massachusetts, where I'm at, where I live, we're not like the world's biggest town. There's a lot of awesome backstories that you can find on the internet. But the General Electric, the headquarters of General Electric was in Pittsfield for a long time, and they left them, I don't know, maybe the late 90s or early 2000s, and it kind of economically wrecked the place for a long time. Well before I came to Pittsfield, and a lot of people left and lost jobs, and the city kind of took a downturn. And at least I've been out here since I don't know, 2012 or something like that. The city has just pushed and pushed and pushed to invest and like try to build small businesses and stuff like that up to kind of build from the ground up and do it. And when I say I lucked into it, I mean that EMA opened at the right time in Pittsfield. The city of Pittsfield has invested $250,000 plus into EMA. The state of Massachusetts wants new and kind of emerging technology, and so they have invested $3.5, $4+ million in the EMA on top of that. And it's like we happen to have the right idea. I mean, right? If you stack up enough coincidences, are they really coincidences, or are they just good ideas? I think it's probably the latter in that point there. But like, I don't know. How am I the guy that's had all these really good ideas at the right time? I mean, it's just to me, it's crazy. Like I don't know. Maybe it's not so crazy, but I'm like, I want to build a space lab. There's not a lot of places you can test stuff in space. It's really complicated and expensive. We should totally do that. Like that was kind of like my idea, and I did some science and some market research behind it, and now we have the only commercial space radiation effects test facility in the United States, and people from all over the world come to the middle of nowhere, Pittsfield, Massachusetts, with their solar cells and their satellite parts and their spacesuit parts and everything in between to just use our chamber. And I'm like, I'm looking around and I'm like, the hell did we get here? This is wild. And you just kind of laugh and just say, here we are, right? Like, how did this happen? I couldn't tell you. I don't think we could replicate it if we had to, but man, am I glad we did.
Wow. I want to bring you back to about 15 minutes earlier when you said two things that you are doing really, really well is asking very good questions and then being able to find really good answer for the questions that you ask. That's probably where all the ideas come in, and where all the amazing things happen, right? So what kind of questions are you asking every day, Justin?
Probably it depends who you ask. If you ask the people I work with, there's probably too many questions. But I mean, if you think about it, everybody's met a little kid that says the word, asks the questions why, right? Like why? And eventually you get to a point where the adult in the room can't answer the question why. And I was that kid, right? Like I would say like, oh, you got to do it this way. Why? Because why? Because why? Because why? And at some point you just run and people just get frustrated there. And in science, if you ask why, you get to the root cause of why things are. And I definitely didn't know this at the time, but like, I really found an interest in physics and things like that in college. I had some really awesome professors. Dr. Gaurav Khanna, who's at the University of Rhode Island right now, taught me a lot about black holes and high performance computing. And my thesis professor is Dr. David Rancor, who's still at the University of Massachusetts. Taught me a lot about transistors and circuits and things like that. And Dr. John Buck, also from there, who I believe he has a PhD in English literature too. So he was an incredibly amazing professor. So I mean, anybody that's been good at anything in education had good professors. But like I had three really, really good ones in areas that I was interested in. And I just, watching the courses there and what I learned from start to finish, I started to ask questions, and questions became like, during interviews, people would ask me stuff, and I realized that I knew stuff differently than they did. Maybe not more, definitely not more, at that point in my career. But like, I had a couple of really good internships in college where I knew how to ask questions differently than what the people that knew more than I did could ask about their professions, I think is the way I would say it. And that led to some really awesome conversations. And those conversations, the way that they happened, I think framed a lot about the way that I would look at stuff. And, I think as I got older, I learned that those uncomfortable questions could really lead to some stuff, peeling back the onion, I think I would call it. I would say in my current career, I get brought in a lot, kind of viewed as a firefighter, like nothing works, Justin's going to come in and fix it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to come in and fix it. We will fix it. Absolutely. I have 100% confidence we can fix it. But to figure out what we need to fix, I need to ask some questions. And that demeanor right there, I think, is something I learned when I was 19 and 19, 20 years old. And really the basis of that is I don't understand why this doesn't work. On paper, it sounds like this should work. It sounds like this should be a great idea. What are we missing? And that what are we missing is really vulnerable, I think, from a way for people to look at how you solve a problem, because I'm not asking you what you did wrong. I'm not asking you what you missed. I'm just saying, what do we miss? Right? Why didn't this work? And I didn't know at all how deep of a question that was when I was younger. I know exactly what it means right now, right? I know when I ask, what did I miss? It's, what did you miss? And I don't mean it that way, but that's kind of exactly what it happens. And when you get someone that can be honest about what they missed, nobody's going to fault you or you being the person I'm asking the question to, or being asked of the question as you missed something. It's, no, what did we miss? Like, how did we, we know 2 + 2 is 4. And we ended up with 3. Like, how did we get here? Like, what did we miss? How did we miss something here? What is the process? And that's really what I'm trying to get at here, is that if you have a good process, you can't get a wrong answer. And that question, the inquisitiveness, I think, has taught me that if you can't get a wrong answer with a good process. It's not possible, right? If you can only put these 5 things in and any combination of them is correct, it's not possible to get a wrong answer. And I believe so strongly in the ability of a good process, at least in my technical field, to figure anything out, that if you really lean into that and I will stake my reputation on process and that consideration there, that, if we do it the right way, you will get the right answer. And, I give webinar. I'm giving one tomorrow at 12 o'clock, 12 p.m. tomorrow on this very topic, where if you want to certify an airplane and you don't have the right process for it, you're going to get it wrong. But the process isn't that complicated, and here's what it is, right? So like that's what I spend a lot of my time doing. And totally be lying if I told you this would be what I thought I'd be doing. I thought I'd be turning screws or testing or something like that my whole life. And I realized that my voice means a lot more than I ever thought it would be, because I think I can, I'm just a regular guy. I like to have conversations and have beer and, go out and, do social things with people, which as an engineer apparently isn't common, right? So I certainly take a lot of value in trying to fill a role that not a lot of people can, and, make the best of it there.
Justin, you say that what do we miss here, right? And for certain people, they will be able to see the big thing that's missing. But then for you, it seems like that you'll be able to drill down into the really, really important piece that really, really missed, and to make the puzzle complete, right? So how do we find that? And have that ability to find the things that are missing through the question and find the answer for that. Yeah,
it won't. So I definitely don't want to say that me on my own, I can do that every time, because that's just not, I'm just not that good. What I think that I do that might be above average or really good is I know what people are really good at, and I pick that up really, really quick. I know what people's strengths and weaknesses are pretty quickly. I'm good at reading people, and especially, I'll just use EMA as an example where I work currently there. I know the people around me really, really well. And I know that in a room, if we have to solve a problem, if I have, these 5 people there, I'm like, there's nothing in these 3 or 4 areas that can get past us there, right? We have a net that has extremely fine, kind of resolution on it. And putting ourselves in a position where we can, me or we, depending on, who's there, me or EMA or whoever I'm working with, is only asked to do stuff they're good at, I think is really where that answer lies. You want me to teach you how to draw a picture, it doesn't matter how detail oriented I am, it's probably going to be ugly. I'm just not I'm not a good artist. That's not where my skill lies. What I'm good at is picking through disparate data sources and things that may or may not make sense, on the surface and looking the genesis of the data, looking at what you're trying to solve, and looking at what things move the needle the most, and determining whether something's right or wrong. That's what I'm really good at, and that capability is something I take a lot of pride in, and I think it's what allows me in the world of consulting, that I work in right now, to be agile and bounce between airplanes and trains and cars and submarines and satellites as kind of quickly as I do. So, the shortest answer that I can give to that isn't me, it's a we. It's, my superpower, if I was going to give one, and say that I'm better than anybody at anything in any context there, whatever it is that it might not be that I can do it, but I know what you can do better than you can most of the time. And if you put me in a group of people that have skills that I can understand really well, I can make sure almost certainly that you're going to be in a position where you're doing what you're really good at. So you put a group of people around me with skills that I understand really well. Yeah, I can tell you we can figure anything out. And that's kind of where that confidence comes from.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to bring you to the moment that you decided to do that TED Talk, Justin. Okay, because it's really, really unique. Because I've been watching thousands of that, and yours is really new and it's really standing out. And then you tell us why you decided to do that TED Talk at the beginning.
It's I would say that giving that talk was a bucket list item that I thought I wanted to do and found out I definitely didn't want to do at the same time. There's a lot that goes into a TED Talk. As if you've seen a lot of them, the rehearsal, the cadence. I'm a talk fast with my hands, and I like to get a lot of ideas out in a short period of time there, and that's just not what a TED Talk is. Because a TED Talk is a conversation where no one can talk back. It's not a presentation. And that was, for me, something that I thought I needed to go through. And I was like, okay, if I have something worthwhile for sharing, I think it would be good. And at least in the Pittsfield community, there are a lot of people, I think, and I appreciate this a lot, respect me and think that I have a good story, especially being part of, how EMA's come to Pittsfield and things like that. And it's been just an amazing ride for everything there. But I don't know, I talk about work all the time. I don't ever talk about me. I don't think that me and my story is that cool or important, because you get a little shy with it there, right? Talk about satellites and space radiation and funding and the importance of economic development and all the technical stuff. I will do that all day, every day. I won't bat an eye, and you'll kick me off the podcast before you run out of time. You want me to talk about me? I'm not in. I'm not going to do that. And I think what the organizers of the event really made me do is, people don't care about what you have to say. They care about you and your story. And why are you talking to us? Who is this? And I had a topic originally that I thought I wanted to talk about. And there's a book by Carmine Gallo that, to a lot of credit, the organizers made us read. It's called, I'm totally blanking on the name of it there, but it's Carmine Gallo wrote it, and it's about a summation of all the TED Talkers that have been really awesome, and the techniques that they use to do it there. And I read it. I read cover to cover, and I don't read a lot of books anymore. I don't have a lot of time, but I made time to read this one, and I realized that that this could be more than just a presentation that I give every day.
Mm.
We do all these amazing technical things there. This could be about Justin, and maybe some people might care, right? Because I have ADHD. I grew up as a single, only child. My childhood wasn't great in terms of parental supervision, and I think I've done a good job professionally. I'm proud of the stuff I've been able to do, and it took me this opportunity to really anchor myself and say, I'm proud of Justin, not what I've done and my accomplishments and the people I've been around, but me, the guy that I grew up in Springfield, Mass. Springfield's at least the time that I grew up in, was a super inner city. There's a lot of people that didn't make it out. I think Springfield taught me some grit, especially, I said it in my TED talk. I don't think my mom ever hugged me growing up. I've never met my dad in my entire life. And there's a lot of people that just didn't have good outcomes from a situation like that. And, whether it's me or luck or something in the middle, I'm not sure. I can only play the hand I've got. And I thought that, looking back on some opportunities I've had to talk to people that are younger, the Berkshire Innovation Center certainly we founded a program called it used to be called Beta. I think it's called the Future Innovators Program now, but essentially kids that are interested in STEM, to just have people that can relate the real world to what they might be thinking they want to do. I was really adamant that was an important thing that Berkshire County needed, and in setting that up, I tried to be really as much part of it as I could, because I knew that I got lucky. I got really lucky to not get in trouble and not get, do something stupid as a kid. I mean, a million opportunities to end something before it started is, kind of, especially in the, kind of upbringing and life I had growing up. I wanted to make sure that people understood there was more out there. And I looked at the Future Innovators Program and how successful that was, not just because of me, but because that thought process of just, you might not think it's important, but somebody might. And you know what? I'm going to talk about it. And once I honed in on, so much to the chagrin of the people that run the event, they did not see my talk. And I did not give my talk until the day prior to the event. But a lot of people, I think, are big practitioners in rehearsing things. I'm not your guy for that. I am from the hip. You want me to give the same presentation 5 days in a row, you are going to get 5 entirely different presentations on the same topic. Just not how I work, right? Like I like the ad hoc, I like the randomness, I like the spontaneity. And I gave it, and I got such good feedback. And I will remember this for the next 40 years of my life. Is I felt like that was the first time I was really vulnerable and open about just stuff that's hard to talk about, for me at least, right? Like, I look at my friends, and to this day, I am so blessed. I have a beautiful wife and 2 wonderful children, and I love my dog, and my home life is great. I'm really happy for it there. I am still jealous that I have to look at people, and even in my own household, my wife's parents are super close with us there. I don't have that. I will never have a dad and a mom that give a shit about, I'm sorry for the swear, give a crap about what I'm doing. They don't care, because that's just not what I have. And I look at my friends' parents and their families and things like that, and I'm like, I am not the only one out there that has tried to make something of a crummy situation growing up. And that right there was what kind of lit a fire under me. And I was like, I'm going to tell my story. And I think that the word success is the worst word in the entire English dictionary, because if you say you're successful, you think you want to be successful, there's an image that most of us have that's pretty common. And that frustrates me to no end, because if you're an artist that just loves painting, and freedom to you is the ability to paint and then have somewhere to live and eat, and you can make paintings and sell them for whatever the heck you want to sell them for, $10, $1 million, somewhere in the middle, whatever it is, your definition of success cannot be defined by people on TikTok and social media there, nor should it. If you're a professional athlete, if you're an engineer, if you're me, if you're you, your definition should be defined by what your goals are. I mean, that just seems obvious, right? Well, why wouldn't that be the name for it there? But we don't live in that world. And I found that I was really passionate about that. And I had a crummy upbringing, and I think the intersection of the two leads to the guy you're talking to today. And that's really what my TED Talk turned into, is kind of a blend of those two.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that's the authenticity right there. When I listen to that conversation, I just feel that you sharing your own story in your own word and perspective, but really, really from the inside of you. So it's not, you don't need to gather information from out there to put into the conversation. So it's really, really amazing. And thanks for that powerful message. And you mentioned in that one is that success is not same as achievements, right? And you've been doing so many amazing things, Justin. I want to hear the definition of success in your own way. Even if you say that's just the worst vocabulary, word in our vocabulary. But if we can define success in your word, what would that mean?
So success is a terrific word. We just use it wrong. So success to me. So let me deviate from achievement. Achievement is something you did that you should be proud of. But if you achieve things, you expect to continue to achieve them, and the expectation of continued achievement leads to a lot of anxiety and problems, and that is not success. That is the root of mental health issue. It's why pro athletes that seem to have everything on a silver platter, they crumble under that expectation. And you have helicopter parents and everything all the way from the ground up that can make that really challenging. To me, success is the ability to invest time in stuff you love. And that is the only qualitative definition that I'll ever subscribe to. Because that definition sounds like it should change over time, because it should. My definition, I'm a simple guy, right? Like, I love science, I love my career. I play golf, and I like to try to stay in shape, and that's really about all there is to me. Like, I don't have a lot to me there with it. Pre-kids, I was like, I think if I practice as hard as I possibly can, maybe I can be a pro golfer. But like, my brain totally could allow that to happen. I mean, I'm not that good. So definitely not that good. I'm not good. Tiger Woods is not talking to you on the phone right now, but I was like, man, if I just practiced like really hard, maybe I could go pro. And I realized, like, I love golf. I really love golf. It's an incredibly challenging, physically, intellectual thing. I mean, I hate it just as much as I love it. Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. But like that's enjoyable to me. I think maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's a sunk cost. I have kids, and playing golf, to be good at it, it's a lot of time. I mean, you have putt and chip and bunker shots and iron shots and drivers and wedges and everything in between. And, I just don't have as much time to play. And I still want to be good just as much as I possibly could be, ever. But, like, I play maybe a 9-hole round on, like, one day during the week, and 18 holes on, like, one day on the weekend. So, like, pro golfers are playing every day. Not going to be me. I don't have that time. So I got to adjust expectations, right? Like, I'm just not there. Because my priorities are like, yeah, I might play golf on Saturday morning at, first thing with the first tee time there, but I'm going to spend the afternoon not chipping and putting. I'm going to go run to the park with my kids and chase them and play ball or whatever we're doing there. And, that definition of success is not what I thought it was 10 years ago, right? Like, success to me was making a ton of money and being important. And then, you get to making the money you thought you wanted to make. Maybe it's not $10 million a year or something like that, but being important. And you're like, what does important mean? What is important? Like, and you start asking yourself all these questions. At least that's what I did. And, especially as I'm watching myself, if you asked 24-year-old Justin what he wanted to be doing, you'd be looking at the guy that he wanted to be right now, right in front of you there. And the guy talking to you has a lot of regrets from a lot of time he spent on the road, all over the world, all the time that I couldn't spend at home that I wanted to, because I didn't know I wanted that. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea that the career that I was taking on had so many nuances to it in terms of being places, physically being places. I had to be places to do what I'm doing right now. And when you're doing that, your children are at home and they're getting into sports and they're trying stuff. And there's this, I call it the dichotomy of success, right? And that's why I hate this word, where maybe I'm professionally successful more than I ever thought I'd be, but I suck at home. I'm being a crummy dad. Maybe I'm not being a crummy dad. Maybe it's okay. Maybe I'm being an average dad, but is average okay? Is that what, when I'm 70 years old, what am I going to care about when I'm 70? I'm trying to predict who I'm going to be 40 years from now, right? To determine my level of happiness. And you're just like, holy cow, this is way more complicated than I thought it was. And I realized really quickly as I started kind of navigating that this is a really, really loaded topic, where if your day-to-day life is spent chasing something where you think being rich and successful or whatever it is something that isn't compatible with what your value system is, you can't ever be happy. Because success, you don't want to be successful, you want to be happy. Nobody actually wants to be successful. They want to be happy. But they think being successful allows them to be happy. And that game is dangerous, really dangerous. And I learned that, and I'm not good at playing it, by the way. I'm still consistently, the same as all of us there, you're fighting I want to do this, but I need to do that, and I got to do this, but I need to be there, and all that stuff. And there's no easy answer to it, but that difference of where when I'm 25, I want to see the world, I want financial success, I want to be physically in shape. I mean, for me, that was what was important. And you achieve that, and it's like, now what? Doesn't mean I'm happy. I've achieved something, and so I knew right then and there the achievement was not going to do it. It was not the game for me. Like you achieved something. No, I'm happy when I'm spending my time in something that equates or is moving me towards what I think is successful. And I was like, okay, like for me, that's being athletic and being healthy and seeing the world and spending time with my wife and blah blah blah. And once your definition of success starts to deviate from your day-to-day life, that's when it gets hard. That's when you get frustrated, when you can't control your life. And I look at a lot of people that are amazing people that are just, they have grit and perseverance and stuff. A lot of traits that I wish I had better myself, but they're just not in a position where they're able to achieve the stuff that they think is valuable to them there, and they struggle. There's mental health. There's just flailing, they're drowning in their day-to-day life, and they're miserable. And the unfortunate thing, especially in America, the unfortunate thing is that there's a lot. I mean, I couldn't state a number to it there, but it's probably half the people in America are probably in that boat in some way, shape, or form, where they think they're expected to be here and they're over here, and over here is probably totally fine. Like you have a house and a family, and your people, your kids, your daughter and your son are healthy, or whatever it is. But they think they're supposed to be here, and you live every day thinking that you're not fulfilling some requirement that you didn't make up. I don't know who made it up, but someone said that you should be over here, and I'm like, I think I need to say something, just because I'm a regular guy and I've fought through it myself, and I've looked at it, and I've had some really good role models that have had a really strong influence on my life, and I don't know, they've opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that I'm not perfect at it. I think my TED Talk talked a lot about it there, where I suck. I absolutely suck at doing this, but I'm aware of it. I can always talk about it.
Justin, that's why your TED Talk is important. That's why I really devote my time, and thank you for having this interview to share this message, so that the people will have the reflective moment in their lives and tune into something important to them. I know that we get reaching our end of the conversation, so just a few more questions, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
So you say that you want your children to say, how cool their father is, right? So what would they say about to their friends, to the teacher, about you now, you think?
Maybe I'll tell you what I hope they say, and maybe I'll tell you what I think they say after it.
Okay.
What I hope they say is, I love my dad, and he spends a ton of time with us, and I love playing with him. That's what I hope they say. And I think they do say that. I think the caveat with it is that the experiences that I'm hoping to provide to my kids require me to make a certain amount of money and have a certain role, right? Like my mom never held a full-time job in her entire life, at least as long as I've been alive. Maybe she had, before I was born or whatever. And so like a vacation for me was like, that wasn't a thing. And so, I didn't go to Disney World until I paid for my own way to go there, and so there's many people that had way worse upbringings than that, but I was like, I want my children to see the world and just understand that there's a lot of amazing stuff that doesn't happen in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which isn't a bad place by any stretch, where we love it there. But let's go to Vietnam, let's go to Japan, let's go to Australia, let's see the world. And what I've learned in my travels is that hospitality in people who are, and I think Vietnam certainly qualifies as this, the pride in sharing your culture, and for me it's food. I love food around the world. I can't get enough of it. The sharing of culture is the best thing that you get when you travel, and I want my kids to have that urge and that interest and want to do that. But in order to give them that, I mean, they need to want it, right? Like if you have everything that you want at home, you'll never want to leave and never want to travel there and do that. And so, I think that they may think that, like on paper, like, yeah, I have a cool job. I still think it's cool, right? So like, I think my kids might think it's cool. I test satellites and airplanes and do lightning and radiation and high intensity radiated fields and everything in between. And it's super complicated. And if you do it wrong, you might die. And I do not take that for granted. I have a cool job. I absolutely have a cool job. That does not mean I'm a cool dad. And I think that the difference is in understanding that, where if my kids tell people that they have a cool dad, and the friends that they're telling never see me at a Little League baseball game, never see me at basketball or something like that, as you get older, that matters more and more and more and more. And maybe it might make my kids change their career decisions because they don't want to be absent like their dad. So like, I have to be super sensitive to, at least I am super sensitive to that. I want to make sure that I'm as good of a dad as I can be, and being a good dad, I don't know what that means, but I think it means being present. I think that, to me, that's a huge part of that definition. And I want to make sure that I do that as best I can. And it's hard, man. It's really hard because I'm still Justin. I want to take over the world and do awesome stuff in my field. And how do you be a good dad and take over the world? I have no idea. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Maybe you invite them to be awesome. Another Justin, number 2 and number 3, and then conquer the world together, right?
Right? Like that's the dream, man. Yeah, right. Let's do it as a team. Yeah.
You mentioned the word think a lot in this conversation, and my wife and I, we've been on the quest to help people to improve their ability to think, because we believe that our thinking capability has been diminishing, and if we can pick the brain of the experts on how they think, and people can pick something to learn from that would be wonderful. So for you, I have 2 last questions. One is about thinking. Okay, how have you been growing your ability to think, Justin?
Well, I would say this is an awesome question. I think that as I've gotten better at thinking, I've realized that I'm not good at thinking. Maybe is the way I would say it. So like, I live in an echo chamber professionally, where I'm consistently put in a room where I'm expected to, or supposed to be, an expert, right? It's like the guy that knows the most in the room about whatever we're talking about. And the more people that EMA has hired, the more I've learned that I don't know everything. And I know that, but like, I'm reminded, maybe is the right term, that I don't know everything. But from a personal standpoint, you have to look at what matters most to you. And that level of thinking, that to me, that has been something I've enjoyed reading a bit about, like being more present, being more aware of my weaknesses, being more of, what do people see when they look at you? And that level of thought is something that's really hard to do when you're trying to accomplish things, right? Like, I'm goal oriented. I'm like, get the hammer out and the pickaxe and dig the hole, and I don't care what anybody thinks, get out of my way. And that works. I mean, look, at being a bulldozer is super effective when you need to move stuff. And I don't regret having that trait, I think, in my personality. But holy cow, when you take a step back holistically and look at like who you are as a whole person, I've run over a lot of people I didn't need to run over, and I think it's done, I wouldn't say damage, but it's stuff that maybe I could have done better. And so to me, thinking is let's look at the landscape of, you want to go here, and to get there, you don't just go here to here. I mean, there's, all these pathways between here and there, and you need to look at the path rather than the destination and the starting point. And I try to be honest about it. I'm really bad at that stuff, but at least I'm aware of it, and I want to get better at it. But man, I get so fascinated by stuff that I'm not good at, because it's like, I figured all this other stuff out. I can figure this out. And if I get good at thinking, I think that, I'll be a really unstoppable person personally as much as I think I can be professionally. And, professionally, again, it's just solving problems and answers and stuff that I think I do on a day-to-day basis. Personally, holy cow, that's a whole can of worms with how to be a good dad and be a good husband and support people and be there and not, still travel. And if I ever figure that out, man, I'll be a Superman. I'm hoping someday I'll figure that out.
Like you say yourself, when you're committed to something, you commit to do it, right? So
Yep.
And that will happen. So the last question is, I want to travel with you one last time. And I want to bring you back to that little boy, Justin, where he lack of his father figure in his life. Mother did not give him a hug in his life, right? And then he's jealous about his friends being, having dinner, having, regular lives. And if you can talk to yourself, to that little boy, and you have a message for him, so what would you tell yourself, Justin?
I don't think I would say anything. I think I would just walk up and give him a hug. I think that really would be where I would go, because, I look at, and I know I can remember it just like in my spine, I can feel like the emptiness and the yearning and the jealousy. Like, not like you have stuff I don't have. You just feel lonely, and, I don't fault anybody. You can only play the hand that you're dealt with, right? And certainly when I was growing up, there was an internet and all these, tools and things like that to feel differently there. But like, man, when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old, I'm like looking at everything from vanity to like the basketball shoes I was able to afford to like, I'd go to play, irrelevant Little League baseball or something like that. And I'd see, people bring their kid out for ice cream afterwards. And I never had that. And I think that if someone hugged me and told me it was going to be okay, that would have really, I don't think it would change where I am now, but it would have made the path a little straighter from all the stuff that I had to go through. I found myself, especially with ADHD, it was really hard I felt like if I stood out, I'd get more attention and maybe people would notice me. And that's really hard, when you're dealing with ADHD and stuff like that, to fit in with people that are worried about their own problems, right? Like nobody really, newsflash, when you're in like middle school and high school, nobody really cares about like what you're going through, because everybody's going through everything at the same time, trying to be, learn how to grow up and be an adult there. And, nobody was there to tell me that. So I think that hug, if I were going to give, 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old Justin, hug him and say, you're okay. You're going to be okay. You don't need to pretend to be somebody you're not. I would do that in a heartbeat, and I think it would move the needle quite a bit.
And if you at 8, 9, 12 years old knew that you from now to travel time, just give him just a hug like that, how would you feel?
Well, I'd probably tear up, to be honest. It would be, that would mean a lot. If you think about the stuff that's easy, think about Christmas Day, you're opening presents around your family and sitting around Thanksgiving. And I just didn't have that, right? Like, I remember when I was a kid, I must have been somewhere around that age, maybe 9, 10, something like that. And my mom just decided to sleep in. And it wasn't until like 8 a.m. It was like 11. And I'm like a kid with like, however many presents we had under the tree, 10, something like that. And I'm just like, I want to open my Christmas presents. And I'm just staring at them there. And my mom tells me to just open the presents because she's tired of hearing me be excited to open them there. And imagine what that means. Like I'm thinking of like my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old. And we're like, how sacred Christmas is. At least in our household it is, where I can literally tell them to be on good behavior from like mid-November until Christmas, and they will do no wrong. They will take any bag of trash out. They will start cleaning the dishes. They're in it to win it. And I'm like looking at what I had with that, and I'm just jealous that the innocence of the holiday was kind of taken from me with that. Again, so I don't fault my mom for anything. She did the best she could, but the taking of the innocence of the holiday there is something that I'm very sensitive to and aware of, that I will make sure that my kids never have to go through. They'll choose to learn, what the holiday means to them on their own time, but it won't get taken from them. I won't take it from them. I won't let my wife and I won't take it from them there. And that's really hard. But at the same time, it makes me appreciate it so much more as an adult, watching my kids and how innocent and how earnest and honest they are with just so we do the elf on a shelf with my kids, and we put in super goofy things every day. It's a way for them to say, hey, Santa's elf is watching you. And my wife yesterday before I left, she put the elf in the sink in our bathroom downstairs and put Scotch tape on it and stuck a whole bunch of sprinkles to it, and it made it look like the elf made a huge mess in the sink. And my kids woke up in the morning and they were like, Dad, oh my God, you see what the elf did? This is amazing. And I'm just like, this is the best. This is absolutely the best. And that innocence is just, you can't undervalue that, right? Because that might have been a 10-second interaction, maybe 20 seconds or something in our day. The mark that leaves on their psyche is going to be there for 10 years, right? Like that, just that, and I'm like, the mark I can leave is that, right? Maybe I'll solve problems at work and stuff and I can leave a mark there, but at home, that's what I can do best. And I just want to let my younger self know it's possible to be able to do that.
Beautiful. Justin, thank you very much for spending your really late evening to share a very beautiful story, very emotional story also. And there's so many insights and wisdom in here for a lot of us to listen, to reflect, and to really relook at the journey that we've been having. And I hope that for our audience to be able to have that realization as soon as possible, to have a life meaningful and fruitful for them also. Now, Justin, please, tomorrow when you wake up and have a conversation with your children and your wife, please say hello to them for us and say they having a new friend from Vietnam, and this new friend and his family is looking forward to see them all. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. We will absolutely take you up on that. I'm hopeful to show my family the world the way I've seen it there, and we haven't been to Vietnam yet, so we'd very much take you up on that for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to meeting you in person. We have more conversation with you in the future. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Have a great night.
Have a good night, and bye bye.